have Prof Dr Bilal Philips to be with us here. And today he will start by giving us a lecture, and within it there will be a lot of wisdom and advices, so it's better to pay attention to what he's going to say to us. And secondly, he would love to talk to all of you, inshallah, after having the photo session, I think, yeah. He will also love to talk to all of you, to hear from you. This is one of the others right here. So you need to understand that as an IOU student, you are under IOU. You should understand that you have the people who can discuss or take care of your matters. So as what our brother Mustafa here is doing, and I'm collaborating with him, alhamdulillah. Whenever you have problems, you come to him. If there is something that needs to be taken action to the university, he will cooperate with me, and we will work on it accordingly. So always just feel free. Whenever you have something, like for example, you have any issue with regard to your studies, you can come, even to your personal life, because we cannot separate the two things, the personal life as well as the study, to some extent, because it's affecting us in one way or another. So this is something that you need to understand, that we are welcoming you, and also we want you to succeed. And that is our main goal. We want you to succeed, so that you can be able to have the level of the knowledge that will enable you to help the society. And that is the main goal. Why IOU was established? It was established for the purpose of helping those individuals who are ready to take the responsibility to help the society. So if we're going to achieve that, that will be a very big achievement in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of this, we shouldn't forget that we should do it for the sake of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we do that, Allah is going to reward us with the immense reward. Inshallah, I don't want to take much time. I would like to welcome our Prof Dr Bilal Philips inshallah, to start by giving us what he has prepared for us today, inshallah, and I hope we're going to benefit out of it. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last days. First, let me thank Allah for giving me the opportunity to meet you all from Pemba. Having heard about the phenomenon here in Pemba of a learning center being set up and a strong response from the community in terms of benefiting from it and benefiting from IOU as a whole. It was something quite exciting when we heard of the spread of information about the International Open University and the response the community here in Pemba showed towards it. I've been to Kenya before, and Tanzania, and I've been to Zanzibar, the other island. I didn't even know that there were the two islands together were called Zanzibar. I can't remember the name of the other one, the other island. Ungoja, right? Ungoja. Because it's completely new to me. But Pemba I had heard about, and I wished to visit, but the opportunity didn't present itself on my previous visits. So, alhamdulillah, it's a wonderful opportunity to meet and share with you the commitment to spreading knowledge amongst the Ummah. Gaining knowledge for ourselves. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ, seeking knowledge is obligatory in every Muslim, and conveying that knowledge to others. خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it to others. The Quran being Islam, the core of Islam. So this morning, I just wanted to share with you some thoughts that I've also shared with others from different communities in my travels through Kenya and Angoja, okay. And that basically is recognition of the struggle between cultural Islam and Islamic culture. Cultural Islam and Islamic culture. Now these two might seem to be the same. Cultural Islam, Islamic culture. However, they are miles apart. Cultural Islam is the Islam practiced by Muslim peoples in different parts of the world. And it is mixed up with their culture. So much so that most Muslims don't know the difference between culture and Islam. Whereas Islamic culture is the culture which is produced by those who practice Islam according to the Quran and the Sunnah. When people live according to the Quran and Sunnah, there will be a culture which they follow wherever they are. And this was an important understanding that I had to grasp in the early days of accepting Islam back in the 70s, where I had to clarify for people misunderstandings they had about Islam. Now you all here in Pemba are not challenged much with foreign understandings of Islam, non-Muslims here, because the percentage of Muslims here, I hear, is in the 90s, right? 90-something% of the people of Pemba are Muslims. And of course, many Muslims in the West, people who have converted to Islam in the West, would love to be here. You know, to leave the Western way of life and to be able to live among a majority Muslim population. So you have been blessed by Allah. I mean, of course, you will take it for granted because that's how it always has been. You've never lived in a circumstance where you are the minority. Muslims are the minority, Muslims are looked down upon, etc., etc. So, in my early days, and since then, in promoting Islam in non-Muslim venues, circumstances, universities, lectures, people commonly ask, or they commonly accuse Muslims of a variety of different crimes. You could say crimes against humanity. And they don't realize that these are actually not Muslim practices or teachings. So when they would mention to me, you know, you Muslims, you you kill your family members and you call it honor killing, killing family members and calling it honor killing. Maybe you never heard about this, but there are Muslims in the Middle East, in Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and other countries, including to some degree Pakistan or India. Muslims in India may also practice it, where if a member of the family, children, and mostly it's directed towards women, if they get pregnant out of marriage, for example, this is a major dishonor to the family. Right? The family feels ashamed, and in their tradition, in order to purify the honor of the family from this terrible act, they will kill the father, the brother, the uncle, will catch a hold of that Muslim woman and kill her on the spot. There's no trial or anything like this. Of course, in Islam, there are issues which have to do with law. You don't take law into your own hands. But in these matters, families may do so. They do it. And it's something which is accepted. People don't even question it. However, when Muslims migrated from the Middle East, from the East, and went into Western countries, America, UK, Europe, and they did it there, it was huge. It was front page news. Muslim father murders daughter. So it became known, this is Muslims, they will kill their children if they commit certain acts, etc. So oftentimes when I'm presenting Islam to non-Muslim audiences, they will raise these questions. How could your religion be a religion of God and you kill your sons and daughters? How? So I have to tell them, this is not from Islam. This is some people do this, yes, the people are doing this, but it is wrong. It is forbidden in Islam. Murder is murder. Murder is murder. So they would raise other things. Female genital mutilation, female circumcision, we call it. Although in many parts of the Muslim world it is not done properly, and it does become mutilation of the female practice. Again, we have to say, this is not from Islam, but we know that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did permit it in Medina. It wasn't a common practice in Mecca, it wasn't done in Mecca. But when he went, he and the Sahaba went to Medina, and Islam found a home for the Prophet ﷺ and his followers in Medina. It was practiced in Medina before Muslims got there. And when the Prophet ﷺ was asked about it, is it okay? Shall we do this? He didn't say, go ahead and do it, and encourage people to do it as male circumcision was encouraged, strongly encouraged. But he said, tell the woman who is in Medina who is doing it to do it very lightly. Do it very lightly, so that it doesn't affect the woman any more than circumcision affects the man. That's what's accepted. So that's the correct way. But in time, it was absorbed, was taken as a practice in some parts of the Muslim world and became a great evil. So much so that some countries in the Gambia, where the headquarters of the International University exists, in the Gambia, they banned it completely. They banned it completely because they had no way of controlling it, that it be done properly. And other countries have done the same. So this is again attributed to Muslims. They're the ones who are known to practice it, and it appears in the big newspapers, etc., etc. And again, I have to say to the people bringing up these issues, this is really not from Islam. So in the end, after I mentioned this about so many other things, suicide bombing, and etc., etc., they asked me, well, how are we supposed to know what is from Islam and what is not from Islam? So I will tell them that whatever you find Muslims doing everywhere you go in the world, then you can know almost 100% that this is from Islam. Fasting. Everywhere you go in the world, Muslims are, when the time for fasting comes, all Muslims fast. Then you can be certain that is from Islam, that's a part of Islam. But something you might find in Indonesia, but you don't find it anywhere else in the world. Or you might find it in India, and it's not found anywhere else in the world. You can know almost 100% that that is not from Islam. That is from the people's culture. So this was the struggle between cultural Islam and Islamic culture. And this cultural struggle continues in our times and will continue. Because we may be practicing certain traditions here in Pemba, which our foreparents have been doing for many generations. But when you research them, you will find that really this is not from Islam. And when you try to tell your parents that really, mother, father, this is not from Islam, they are not ready to listen to you. They are not ready to listen. They feel, do you know better than our parents? You know Islam better than my grandfather? Your grandfather was Sheikh, this, that, and the other. This is what the response will be. The response will not be, shall we look in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and see if we have a basis for this practice? This is what the answer should be. But this is not what the answer is. People go back to their tradition. This was pleasing to my parents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents. It was okay for them, it's okay for us. And this is something Allah described the pagans of Mecca as saying when the Prophet ﷺ brought to them the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they rejected his message. Allah said in the Quran, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ وَإِلَى الرَّسُولِ قَالُوا حَسْبُنَا مَا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا. If you come to them with and invite them to what Allah and His Messenger have brought, their response would be, what we found our foreparents doing is sufficient for us. That's enough. We go with what our foreparents were doing. So this attitude of dependence on foreparents and tradition, this is the cultural Islam. This is the result of the mind that has been lost in cultural Islam, which is unable to distinguish between true Islam and false Islam. And alhamdulillah, the International Open University is in the forefront of trying to bring that correct understanding to the Ummah, wherever we are able to reach. And alhamdulillah, we've reached more than 200 countries around the world. We have students in all corners of the earth. Alhamdulillah. And you are a part of that great family of Muslim students in the International Open University. This challenge of cultural Islam and Islamic culture, we can see it before us in Ramadan itself. I'll just give you one brief example to help you to understand the nature of this struggle and how deeply it has reached. And that is my personal experience when I first accepted Islam back in 1972, before most of you were born. Okay? Many of you were not even thought of. In 1972, when I accepted Islam in Toronto, Canada, and I'm originally from Jamaica, right? My roots are from Africa, but through Jamaica. I grew up in Canada, etc. So, the point is, when I accepted Islam in Toronto, Canada, at that time, Ramadan was around the corner. It was about a week or two ahead. And when I first accepted Islam, and they explained to me about fasting, I had a worry. And then when they told me it's 2 weeks away, I had a big worry. How am I going to fast? I've never fasted in my life. You know, this is something not possible. I'll probably end up breaking my fast. I won't be able to do it. So I was quite worried. So the brothers who were around me at the time when I accepted Islam were accompanying me and helping me to learn about Islam. They noticed this anxiety which I seemed to be having, distress. They asked me, what's wrong? So I said, it's fasting. I don't think I can do fasting too much. Fasting for 30 days. I said, no. It's easy. It's not difficult. Don't worry. Calm down. It's okay. How? How can it be easy? He said, our kids fast. You know, our children fast. I said, really? 30 days. Still I was, anxious. How am I going to do this? Listen, when we have suhoor, we have a 3-course meal. Our suhoor is like dinner, full meal, 3 courses. We eat until we're full, no more room left. We can't eat anymore. Oh, okay, stop. And when the time comes to break the fast, we have a 6-course meal, twice as big. In fact, when we reach Eid, usually we have gained at least 10 kilos. 10 kilos. Amazing. How you fast for 30 days and gain 10 kilos by the end of Ramadan. How is that? That's insane. This is the reality. We have culturally turned fasting to feasting. So it's not a month of fasting, it's a month of feasting. And this this is what Muslims are doing today all over the world. And the example, Sirat al-Mustaqim, regarding fasting, Prophet Muhammad had said, Ni'ma suhoor al-mu'min al-tamr. The best suhoor for the true believer is dates. Dates. Just dates and water. Dates, meaning 1 date, or 3 days, winter, or 5 days. Okay, around 5 is time to stop. Because otherwise you're going on to 7, and the next thing you know you're in 10, and you know. So about 1 to 5 days. That is suhoor. That is the suhoor of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions. Today I know a number of you are sitting there nodding your heads. Yes, that's or shaking your head from side to side, how to do that. But that is the real fast. That is the fast that you will feel something of hunger. You will feel something of hunger. So when you hear about Gaza, Palestine, Gaza, where Muslim brothers and sisters of ours are starving to death, they're dying out of lack of food. If you are making suhoor 1 or 3 days, it means something. But if you are having a full meal, then it's just a number. 10 died today, 12 died yesterday, they're just numbers. So the idea, one of the elements of fasting is that we feel something of hunger so we can appreciate the food that Allah has made available to us. So, inshallah, we only have how many more days left before the Eid? 1 or 2 days left. Huh? Or 3 days? Huh? Or maybe even 4 days? Whatever. Whether it's 2 or 4 days. The point is, in these last few days, my brothers and sisters, let us fast the fast of Prophet Muhammad. Let us get back to the true culture of Islam with regards to fasting. So, this challenge is a challenge in all areas of our lives. The International Open University brings knowledge to you which helps you distinguish between true Islamic culture and cultural Islam. And this fight, this struggle will continue until the last day. Because cultural Islam, whose teachings are against and practices are against the teachings of Islam, this is from Shaitan. And the struggle between Shaitan and human beings is continuous until the last day of this world. So, my brothers and sisters, inshallah, I hope you have grasped this point. It is an important point, and that, inshallah, you will strive to know and uphold the principles of true Islamic culture. You being the beginners of the new generation, coming out of a background where you haven't had proper access to Islamic teaching, you're now getting this opportunity opportunity. And this is the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He has provided it through the avenue of the International Open University and through other avenues too. I'm not saying the only place you can get this knowledge is from International Open University. No. You have television programs now and other programs on the internet, etc., which have made knowledge available to us on a scale which was not known in the generation before. So, Barakallahu Feekum, I'll just stop here as a brief introductory thought, not a lecture per se, because we want to give the majority of the time to you. I came to meet you, to hear the issues that you're faced with, to look at the problems, to try to find solutions, to make the implementation of IOU's curriculum here in Pemba something truly beneficial, as widely beneficial as possible, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Directly to the lecture you gave, and maybe one will be out of this lecture, that is from other lecture I'm starting with you at IOU. My first question is about Quran computation. Is Quran computation Islamic culture or cultural Islam? And what is your perspective or Islamic perspective on Quran computation? Question number 2, you talk about honor killing or killings. You talk about honor killing, which you said earlier, places like Iraq, Iran, Syria, and other places which is being practiced. So, based on that, I want to ask about abortion. And actually, there's a verse in Allah which says, "I don't kill nafs that Allah has forbidden to kill, but with the right cause." And here in Zanzibar and some other places in Zanzibar, outside Zanzibar, they tend to say that there's a law that if the pregnancy may cause harm to a mother, they are allowed to abort. Isn't this a killing? And in some cases, they say also if the pregnancy may cause a harm to the baby itself, the baby who's in her mother womb. Also, if they say that there is some problem which can cause a problem to him, also it can be aborted. But I think I cannot see abortion in that case as a way to save, because there is nothing bad you can do rather than killing that baby. And in course Tafsir 201, I'm taking this semester, you say about there is no contradiction in the Quran, and of course as a Muslim I accept that, and you say that there is a website in which they listed what they called contradiction in the Quran, and one of the contradictions that I remember said that about Quran, whether it was revealed all at once, because it is in Qadr, or it was revealed on basis. So by myself, I went to the website and learned many things from there, and of course, all of them doesn't make any sense. That is not actual contradiction. But I wonder how can I answer this one. They say in the website that one of the contradictions of the Quran is on what man was created. because there are various verses which describe different ways of creation, including so they say that the man created from nothing or from clay, or in other verses that says, or say black God. For me, I was able to answer the question because, of course, Allah's creator, or see the creator, must have created everything from scratch, from nothing. So I would like to hear your answer on that. So thank you.
In your enthusiasm, I let you go ahead. Normally I don't allow it. You start one question, see everybody who needs to ask a question, give them a chance. If there's time, you get your second question, and then off the topic, the third question. So the first question, again, maybe forgotten by the time you finished off the third. What was the first question again?
Whether Quran's competition is Islamic culture or cultural Islam.
The question being, is the Quran competition, which is commonly done in different parts of the Muslim world, a part of cultural Islam or Islamic culture? Well, what we do know is that from the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, there were no Quran competitions held. So it's not from the Sunnah. This is clear. It's not from the Sunnah to have these. Secondly, if we say, because although something may not be from the Sunnah, it may be still considered in keeping with the Islamic goals. If it's another way to reach a goal, which is Islamic in the end, then it may be accepted as permissible, right? As long as you're not doing anything which breaks Islamic rules, crosses Islamic red lines, etc. So, when we look at the issue of Quran competitions, actually, in fact, they are reinforcing a cultural understanding of Quran reading. That's the fact, really. The cultural understanding is that in Ramadan, as Allah said, Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran, the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed. That this month it's taken, and the Prophet Muhammad used to recite the whole Quran that was revealed to him at that point during Ramadan. In the last Ramadan of his life, he recited it twice, right? We know this from the practice of the Prophet. So, reciting the Quran during Ramadan is from the Sunnah, from the prophetic way. However, when we read the Quran like parrots who don't understand what they're saying. When you say to a parrot, "How are you?" his answer is going to be, "How are you?" He didn't understand what you said, and he doesn't know what he's saying. That's parroting the Quran. The vast majority of Muslims today parrot the Quran. They really don't read the Quran. Meaning, reading the Quran and understanding what they're reading. Because this issue of understanding is critical, considering that the goal of the reading of the Quran is to be guided. If you're reading something in Greek or in German, you don't know Greek or German, can you understand it? Can you be guided by it? Of course not. Allah told us right there in Surah Al-Baqarah, right after Surah Al-Fatiha, first chapter after Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Baqarah, He called the Quran Hudan lil-Muttaqeen, guidance for those who fear Allah. That guidance can only come if we have understood the Quran. So, from the perspective where beautification of the Quran with our voices becomes the goal, because we're judging to a large degree, the common people judge according to the beauty of their voices. The experts in the recitation of the Quran, they are judging the student according to their tajweed expertise. You know, they lose marks for errors in tajweed, etc., etc. And that's legitimate. That part of the Quranic competition is legitimate. To find the one whose recitation is the most correct. That part is legitimate. Even though there were no competitions like that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the goal of the competition in that case is legitimate. Because we do want that the Quran be recited accurately, correctly. As it was preserved and brought down to us these last 1,400 years, we want to continue to pass it on in the same fashion. So that is legitimate. But as the common people understand it, they're just hearing it from the beauty of the voice of the qari, the one who is reciting. And they will have their own judgment. The one who the judges choose, they say, no, he wasn't the best. It was that one over there. He said he wasn't much better. You know? So that's just ignorance, you know. I won't say it is anti-Islamic, etc., but people should be enlightened to understand that the goal is understanding. So I would say it would be better to have a competition where the understanding of the verses are also questioned. They are questioned on their recitation, accuracy of recitation, and then on the contents of what they have recited. That would make the Quran competition, we say, fully acceptable as is. But as it is right now, it has weakness in it. It needs to be improved. It needs people like yourselves who have that understanding that really the goal from the reading of the Quran is guidance, and that will only be achieved if those reciting it understand what they're reading and the meanings are questioned to determine who understood it best, and the people are informed and they also gain from the understanding. That would be a Quranic competition more in keeping with the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was based on the Quran itself. Now, the third question, that was the first question. The second question was what again?
Abortion to save a mother or a baby.
Abortion, yes. Well, we know from Islamic law that if there is a choice between a mother and a fetus, the mother is given precedence. Her survival, because she is already alive and can stand on her own, is given precedence over the fetus. So if Muslim doctors, or doctors who are not Muslim but are acting in accordance with Islam, determine that the mother's life is being threatened and the only way to preserve her life is to abort the child, then that is a legitimate choice according to Islamic law. But for abortion, we know that it is the beginning of the 4th month that the spirit of the child is brought into its body while it's in the womb. So what takes place before that point would not be considered taking the life of a human being. Okay? Still, many scholars, if not most scholars, would disallow it in such circumstances. Some make exceptions for rape, incest, other things which may take place, done before the beginning of the 4th month. So this is an area of this agreement among the scholars themselves. So the case needs to be looked at. Somebody of knowledge can make that judgment for that particular case. We have a general rule which said where the mother's life is threatened, her life gets precedence. And that's as much as we can say at this moment. Okay? Further question?
We have 5 questions.
Huh?
I have a 5 question.
You said that abortion is being considered from the 4th month of the pregnancy. So I would like to know, is it okay to use birth control in Islam? Because most people nowadays are using them. Thank you.
Is it permissible to use birth control in Islam? Well, actually, if you go back to the authentic hadiths, the Sahaba practiced birth control. So, as a general rule, birth control is permissible. Obviously, it wasn't with pills, right? Pills is something recent. But they did what they could. The Prophet ﷺ didn't forbid it. And he said that if Allah is destined for you a child, even if your fluids came on a rock, it would find its way to the womb of the woman, illustrating visually the idea that it's with Allah's hand. He is the one who decides who gets pregnant and who doesn't. But he didn't say, do not do it. Further question? In her question, the modern ways that are being used, whether it's using a coil or using pills or using injections, there are other ways. Well, in the end, as I said, obviously what the Sahaba was doing was nothing of these things, but it was still birth control nonetheless. That the way, as long as the way is not harmful to the woman herself, then it's not an issue that is permissible. Do we have a further question?
In addition to sister's question, I would like to know about the male who are practicing Asi. Is it a principle in Islam or not? In the last group? Thank you very much.
Okay, brothers, to the practice of, we could say, birth control by avoiding ejaculation in the womb of the mother or inside of the mother. Azl was not prohibited by the Prophet ﷺ, as per what I have known, what I have studied, and as long as it isn't permitted, it wasn't forbidden, then we accept it as a legitimate means. The third question.
The third question was about so-called contradiction in the Quran.
Okay. Yes, Allah does state in the Quran as one of the proofs that the Quran is from Allah, that were it not from Allah, you would have found in it many contradictions. Is what Allah stated. Reality is that whatever you find of contradictions, what appears to be contradictions, are only contradictions based on your lack of knowledge of the Quran as a whole. One of the great scholars of the past, he wrote a whole book on apparent contradictions in the Quran. And he also did another work, apparent contradictions in the Sunnah. And these two classics we have translated in IOU, and it's part of our master's program in Islamic Studies. Our Sharia program, students have to take these two books as part of their study course. The scholars have looked at these apparent contradictions, and what you'll find is that the Orientalists and others who try to attack the Quran by claiming there are in fact contradictions there, they have gone back to these classical works of Muslims where they have identified the apparent contradictions and given explanations, but most people don't know about them. Most people don't know about them. So it's easy to create confusion in the minds of Muslims, since they understood that there's no contradictions in general, and they don't know how to explain the apparent contradictions. What appears as a contradiction, but what is not in fact a contradiction. And the example which was given was that of the creation of humankind. Was it from black, sticky clay? Or was it from water? Or etc. Other references that Allah has made from the alaq, from different references regarding the human being's creation. But what is being referred to there are different stages of creation. Where yes, at one stage, human beings were created from nothing. We were created from what exists in the earth from all over the world, as the Prophet ﷺ said, angels gathered earth from all over the world and then Allah created human beings with it. But at one stage, that same earth came from nothing. So the absolute origin is from nothingness. This is reality. So these different references are just references to different different stages of creation and not different origins of creation. Inshallah. Do you have a further question? Is that the brother in the back?
I have one question, but before this question, I thank you, Dr. Bilal, to come to Pemba. First, second, also thank you for giving us the speech, strong speech about the difference between Islamic culture and culture in Islam. Thank you very much. My first question is about a woman in Islam. A woman is commanded to work at the same place with man. Is woman, Muslim woman, is recommended to work at the same place, example, in an educational office, with man or with men? What is about this? Is it Islamic culture or culture in Islam? Thank you.
Our brother's question, are women allowed to work in the same location as men or not? If we look back to Medina, where Islam took root and the majority of the social rules of Islam were revealed. In Mecca, the theological rules regarding Allah, worshipping Him alone, etc., this was revealed in Mecca. But in Medina, the social rules for setting up society and its operation, crimes, treating crimes, etc., they were revealed mostly in Medina. So Medina was the foundation of the Islamic State on a political and social level. In Medina, there was a marketplace where goods were sold. Non-Muslims were already selling goods here from before, men and women. The Prophet ﷺ did not instruct the Sahaba to separate the men from the women, meaning one market for women, one market for men. You have that? Saudi Arabia, they were doing that for the longest while, and we do have it in some other countries also. But it's not to say that if you chose to do that and the society accepted it, it can't be done. It couldn't. You know, if a government, Muslim government, saw that there was corruption coming out of the women and the men going into the same area, in order to prevent that corruption, they could say, okay, we'll have a separate marketplace for women, which will be, all of the vendors, etc., traders inside there will be women. It's for women. It's okay. If the society accepts it, the majority accepts it, no problem, then it's okay. But is it instituted? Does Islam say you have to do that? No. The Prophet ﷺ accepted the marketplace of Medina as it was. And as it was, there were men, there were women, men and women went and bought That's the bottom line. We have a further question? Okay, well, let's get this sister.
Also, I think our Dr. Bilal for coming to Pemba. This is our university teacher or invigilator to do calling coming to Pemba. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him, to grant him, to get ideas coming to Pemba. But today, we are so very grateful to see him, and this is our golden chance. Because many of different countries, they are very interested to see you. And when we open different social media, they are saying when Dr. Bilal will come to your country. But for people in Pemba, they are so very happy to see you, and this is golden chance to see you in our islands. Also, I have a question. Also, there are some recommendation is a part of IOU. The first question is about the name of IOU. I think that the history says that the first name that was called is known as Islamic Online University, and after the time era called the International Open University. We have to know what the change this name from Islamic and to remove Islamic and to make International Open University. That is the first question.
Okay, let's start. We come across it. The university, when it started, offered Sharia and Arabic. So we were rightfully called the Islamic Online University because we were teaching Islamic teachings in Sharia, Islamic studies, and Arabic, which is connected with Islam. However, when the university was started, utilizing the curriculum from Medina to Munawwara, that Sharia curriculum was modified. I am a graduate from Medina University, and I realized that the graduates coming from Medina University were not prepared to take their role in society when they returned home. Because the average Sharia graduate who comes out, goes back to his community, he is called the Sheikh. And he is expected to lead the community. He is expected to lead the community because he is the Sheikh. He has actually gone and studied and brought the knowledge back. However, he didn't take any courses in management. And to lead the community, you have to manage the affairs of the community to be able to lead them. But you don't have knowledge of management. Furthermore, when you come back, all of the problems of the community are brought to you. Husband and wife issues, one businessman and another businessman's issues, issues of the neighbors and all kinds of social issues will be brought to you. But you have never studied psychology. So you really don't know how to deal with these problems. Unless your father was the sheikh and you were sitting with him all the time when he was solving people's problems. So you learn from that some techniques which may be right, may be wrong. So again, that the graduate is limited. He comes back, he doesn't know IT. been away for the last 10 years studying. The world has moved on technologically, and he is now a dinosaur in the modern society. You know, he can't communicate. So, again, further weakness. And so on and so forth, other areas. Economics. Yes, he studied Sharia, halal and haram, you know, the muamalat, and these other areas. But modern banking, science, he hasn't studied. So he can't offer solutions to the community. So, and so on and so forth. So what I decided to do was to add to the Sharia curriculum courses in all of these different areas. So the graduate would at least be exposed to something of counseling, psychology, something of management, something of IT, all these other areas. Now, when our first batch of graduates graduated in 2014, we started in 2010, first batch of graduates 2014. From that point onward, we began the process of turning those individual courses into departments, colleges in the Islamic Online University. When we had completed that within 2 years, by 2016, the majority of our courses were no longer specifically Islamic. Majority of our courses were modern courses. Now, these modern courses were being taught from an Islamic perspective. But nonetheless, the Islamic courses, which are purely Islamic, now became the minority. 5 were modern courses, 2 were Islamic. So now the name, the Islamic Online University, gave people a misunderstanding of the offering of the university. So that is why we decided to change it from Islamic Online University to International Open University, because that more reflected what was being offered. Because many times I ran into the case where in talking to people about the university, you know, I mentioned that we were offering Islamic banking and finance. I said, what? We thought you were Islamic we thought you only taught Islamic studies. Because that's what Islamic Online University implied. That all we taught were the traditional Islamic studies. So that's the reason for the change in the most part. In the second part, you know, a lesser reason was also not to turn off the governments that we have to work amongst right from the very beginning. Because also when you name something Islamic in countries that are majority non-Muslim, then that can be a liability. It can create more problems for you than not. So, but the primary reason was because the majority of our courses were not specifically Islamic. Though they were Islamized, they were not specifically Islamic. I hope that point is clear. And is that our last question?
To the university as well as to the studies. The question should be restricted to that area only. We are not going to allow you or your question to be answered if it is out of this area, because we don't have much time and we want to hear from you as well. So inshallah, I think I shouldn't take much time. We can start. If you have a suggestion, a question, or a challenge with regard to your studies, as long as you are studying under IOU International Open University. So, inshallah, we would like to welcome you to give us your input.
Thanks, because there are some challenges that happen when we are studying. Firstly, we have great library that will help us in course. Some people they are so lazy to open software on their computer or on their mobile phone. So it will be better when we get library in our campus. Then the accommodation is about the building. I think we have a building, but it's not our. So we have to get specifically our building because we use a different issue that is, we have different things that is not ours, but we have to get our building. Actually, something like that.
What I understood that the basics or the basis of your question is the need for a physical library. Practically speaking, the IOU would not be able to do it. We are an online university, and as such, we have a digital library with more than 400,000 books. More than 400,000 books. And we have a system to help you get access to these books to get your information. Much of what is needed today in terms of Islamic materials, etc., books which have been published, are available online. So where you are having difficulty with online resources, then contact your local representative, and he in turn, if he doesn't have the direct answer, will help you get access. This is the best that we can offer at this time. We are particularly online because it is the way by which we can reach the maximum number of people at the minimum cost. So we only have one official building, university building, that is in the Gambia, where the university is incorporated and fully accredited. We do have some other buildings which are rented, and in some cases have been bought, which are learning centers where we have the support of the community, and some learning centers were bought or rented for students' use. But the library, physical library, we do have in the Gambia, where the headquarters is. There is one there, limited, but our main library, inshallah, is the online library. And I had wanted to donate a copy of my latest publication a couple of months back. It is called The Best in Islam. The Best in Islam. And it is illustrated. It contains the authentic hadiths, a collection of the most authentic hadiths from the Prophet ﷺ, in which he stated something, someone, someplace as the best. The best man, the best woman, I'm leaving a copy here for your office that people may borrow or look at when they visit your office. Inshallah, it has been printed, and we will be sending copies for free distribution in the future, near future. It was printed in Malaysia, so it will be shipped out probably to Kenya, being a center for East Africa, and then copies will be sent to our various learning centers like yours in the East of Africa, inshallah.
First of all, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Bilal, for coming to Pemba. You are so welcome. Karibu Pemba, kisiwa cha Wanashakafu, for Kiswahili. My recommendation that our IOU campus there, we have only rent building. We rent building with only small examination room or study room. So I recommend to you, if possible, it would be better if we get at least rent building with enough space for examination or meeting like this, etc. So, because at our campus there, we supposed to do our exam by shift. So, it will be better we get enough hall with enough equipment. A special generator, sometimes power off, we get internet problem, so that's it. Thank you.
Bismillah. In terms of having a learning center, which would also serve as an examination center, with sufficient equipment, desks and chairs, etc., to be able to handle the needs of the community here, the proposal can be made. In the proposal, the costs that are going to be involved should be identified, and the numbers of people who can benefit from it, and the equipment that also needs to be in the rented area, or if it's a purchased area or whatever. Complete a proposal and send it to our board, GSM, General Senior Management Body, and we will look at it and look at our finances and try to do what we are able to do for you, inshallah. We're happy to do it. If those present here represent the actual numbers of students where the need becomes clear and obvious, inshallah.
Doctor, for your presentation, or good presentation. I have one question and one request. As you are fond of this university, we need to know which criteria IOU will use for selecting the language for instruction, or the medium of instruction. because recently I have seen Urdu is going to be used in the university and other languages. So if you give us the criteria, we request we Zanzibaris, Swahili language is more useful in our country. So it is better now to establish or to initiate this language to be used as a medium of instruction in some courses. Thank you.
The question is concerning the language of instruction used by the university. As you may or may not know, the Sharia program of the university is taught not only in English, but also in Russian. It's taught in Urdu. It's being prepared to be taught in Bengali. And it's also taught in Bahasa, Indonesia. This is the language of the people of Indonesia. And these different languages are based on the requests and numbers that were interested in having the course taught in their languages. I have suggested myself the possibility of Swahili language being a basis of teaching. Maybe 2 years ago, it was presented in Kenya and in Tanzania. In this trip, I presented it again in Kenya. They told me best that you have it done in Tanzania, because the Tanzanians are more Kiswahili based than Kenyans, who are more English oriented. They're known for their English. So we are open to look into that possibility. A team of scholars would need to be prepared or to be gathered to revise the material, because we now have facilities electronically to make the process quite easy. AI that we hear about now makes it possible to do what would have taken years. When we first translated our bachelor's program into Bahasa in Indonesia, it took us 4 years. But we were translating as the courses were being taught. So we just stayed ahead of the courses that were being delivered. So by the time we completed the 4th, the students were ready to enter the 4th year and graduate. However, we also, based on the demand from Indonesia for Islamic psychology, because this is something unique globally. We're one of the only universities in the world that offer a bachelor's of science in Islamic psychology and a master's and PhD. So, because of the great demand in Indonesia, we took on the challenge last year, and by this year, that is 1 year's time, we were already able to complete the translation of the psychology, Islamic psychology, in Bahasa utilizing the AI system. The process is still ongoing, but the process of initial translation was done in a year. Revision, checking will continue, but the overall translation of the 4-year program was completed in a year. So the same can be said potentially about Swahili, Kiswahili, and if you all are interested enough, I'll be meeting with some other leaders of the Muslim community when I visit in the near future, in a couple of days, when I go to visit Kenya, Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, inshallah. So if we can find the personnel prepared, then we have no problem in going ahead and offering it.
Be with Dr. Bilal and his followers in Pemba, because most of the visitors, they arrive in Unguja only, not in Pemba. So for us to say Alhamdulillah at all. Secondly, I have my concern on, you know that on this one, on Friday, we have an inclusion. Our word is in inclusion. So we include all people in all aspects, including Islamic perspective. So we know that our center in Pemba is on, I think that the first floor, on the first floor. For some of people who have disabilities, like deaf, blind, or physical, they came up for this service program of university in Pemba. So for this, I think that for the better, it's good to have a center in a ground floor in such a way that all people can learn in a friendly environment in all the time. So it's better to have a center in the ground floor and not in a first floor or second floor. And also, my question is on this type of university that we have this kind of people who have special needs. So they can have a good chance to learn effectively. Maybe you have a blind student. So a blind student, he or she uses a braille machine in order to learn his lesson. And also a deaf, he wants to use either sign language in order to learn effectively. So for that type of education in our university, I mean international university, this group of people, they are going to be benefited or discriminated out because there are a lot in our environment and they want to join with this university, but they have a doubt that when they are in this university, are they going to be benefited? This is my question, thanks.
Suggestion or complaint with regards to the case of special needs students and what IOU is able to do for them. We are limited in our resources. This is reality. Because the university is not a business primarily. It has business aspects because there are finances involved in running the university. So it has to be financially sustainable. That's the goal reality. the degree that we're able to do so based on our current resources, we have done and we are doing. Footnote, what they call subtitling, we're introducing in the courses to deal with people who have hearing impairment, so they can utilize the subtitling. Issues of Braille, because we are online and there is not a Braille system that can be transmitted online, we can't enter into that area. We are limited according to our resources and the cost to be able to produce the material that would be needed. But we have not forgotten the special needs students, just our ability to fulfill them is limited. But we appreciate your reminding us of that obligation, and we will continue to try our best to provide the necessary equipment or programs or locations which help them in the course of their study. And I should mention in one particular outstanding case of special needs student who graduated from amongst us, and there's a sister by the name of Ayan, who was originally, she's from Somalia, and when she was, I think, 3 years old or 6 years old in a camp, she got some, got some disease, which made her unable to move anything but one finger on one hand. But alhamdulillah, in her state, she studied in IOU, completed her bachelor's, and is now doing her master's. She's in the States, where, of course, means are there to help, supportive means, but mashallah, she's an outstanding student in spite of disabilities that most people would give up on if they were faced with it. Barakallahu feekum. I think this was our last question or comment. Is there something left over? Was a question asked and I didn't answer it?
No.
Or you were writing a question now?
I have another question. Please, the last one.
So I think we need to go out, inshallah, and get a good photo. Then we can consider issues.
And we ask Allah to bless this gathering and to give who are engaged here that this a shining example for Muslims. We hope that the graduates from this world as examples of dedication